Alessio, my apologies for not writing down action items from last week's demo.
There's nothing
I-
to apologize. I mean, we discussed them and then we forgot. And it was late at the end, and we were so happy because we were able to roll back, and
Yeah.
it wasn't for
As head
blaming
note
anyone.
taker,
just-
I feel responsible for not doing my job.
Okay, so but no blame on you. So let me check. So Myra will not join, obviously.
Yeah, I think Amy's the only other person that may join us, but
Yorick as well.
he's listed as not coming according to the calendar
Okay.
invite.
Henry as well is listed as present, as attending. Yeah. Oh, so let's ping. Let's send a couple of ping, then we can start. Okay, so Amy said it could be a couple of minutes late. Please start without me. So so let's try. So Robert, do you think, did you already receive your handover message as release manager? So are you aware of what's happening in general?
In general, yes. And then today there's a bunch of incidents that don't look great.
Okay, so no, that's because my question was, my question is, do you think we can actually attempt a staging rollback, or we can just follow the procedure up to the
That's
rolling
a
back
good
and just not run it?
question.
Because pipeline wise, I'm quite sure nothing changed. So if we are unsure, the deployer pipeline is still the same, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, we can just,
In that case, what do we need to verify? Just changes we made last week have improved things?
Yeah, because we changed the runbook linking to, so we can just run through the runbook and up to the point where we decide if we want to roll back or not. And I say, now I would have run this command, but I will not.
Okay. Yeah, then I think for the sake of some stability, I'd probably just, not perform the actual rollback.
Okay, so who wants to run it?
I'll go through it. I haven't done it yet.
Okay. So share your screen and let's enjoy the movie. You are muted, Robert.
That would make a difference. All right. So having watched the previous recording, I know that we added this link to how to roll back deployment. So that's good. It's nice and prominent and you can find it quickly. So let's go through this. Shoutouts command. Except the stupid Slack markdown editor is terrible. Clear form.
I always press up as well, thinking I'm in my terminal, and then I can't edit.
Actually,
it.
that does work. Yeah.
Oh,
Sometimes it
okay,
works.
nice.
That's like when I just keep scrolling on other screen share sessions, say why the document doesn't move.
Okay. Our little script says it should be safe. Yeah, it's just two simple commits.
This is too simple.
Now we still have to find the package to roll back to, is that right?
just before we go, are you going to go ahead and do a full rollback on
Yeah,
staging?
so we talked about that. I think just since nothing has changed in the actual pipeline, we're just going to go up to the point where we would actually
Okay, great.
do it and then not do it. So yeah, I think something possibly helpful to add to that command output would be the actual package, so we don't have to do this rigmarole. It's the current one, I believe. Tag.
I think it's the previous one. Is it? Because you want to see
Deployment to rollback to, yes, you're correct.
the rollback, yeah.
That one. Change the plus to a dash. Oh. That's terrible.
Is your screen share frozen, or is that just me?
I see
Is
it
it?
frozen as well.
Yes.
What's it frozen on?
On the search bar, you have the browser and there's search equals and nothing typed in, and then you keep looking and
This is Big Sur and Zoom. I read all of Reddit the other day.
All of it.
Yeah, quite a lot of it. Apparently there's a setting inside video sharing where you can set the thing that will hopefully fix this, which is...
now it's a black screen.
Yeah, you'll have to rejoin Robert to be able to share again. There is a...
Does it matter like what if you're only sharing a window? Because I was sharing the whole desktop.
It doesn't make a difference, I don't think. There's a thing inside your settings, screen share, which apparently if you click use TCP connection for screen sharing, is meant to fix this. I haven't tested it yet though.
Enable that, and I guess I'll rejoin real quick.
Yeah. I finally broke at the weekend. I was like, I can't handle this, not this freezing of screen share thing. It's gonna be the end of me. It'll be like the final straw.
Now it's funny because I was screen sharing this morning and it was working, but I don't have the setting. So now I am on the fence. If should I change it and or just
I wouldn't touch anything if it's working.
Okay, we can see your screen now. So
Should I actually execute this and then just cancel the pipeline, or do we want to go any further?
No. I think we are fine.
Okay, so I think there's still some annoying work there we can automate to make things easier.
Yeah, finding the package and things like that.
Yeah.
There's
We
also another
we already had
thing.
that information like in the chat.
Yeah. There's also another thing that I put as a note in the runbook itself, which is that it marks every type of migrations as a potentially unsafe. So, I mean, obviously, it is potentially unsafe, but we should not put the red mark on when there are only regular migrations, because it is exactly the same situation which canary and production are running. Because we know this, we keep repeating this every week, but yeah, maybe we know that this is safe, but I would like the tool to be more clear on this. So it's worth knowing that there are migrations, but I would not call it a red potential unsafe. Maybe just say kind of a warning signal and say, yeah, there are migrations, but no blocking migrations, something like this.
Yeah, that makes sense. Having the information is useful for sure.
Yeah, because I'm thinking maybe, yeah, we are not here for some reason. So, and someone has to follow it, right? So, and the SRE on call, and yeah, you say, it's unsafe, so I will not proceed. Indeed, it's okay. Oh, so okay, should we move to discussion items? Yes, because we would not run it. So I put my last week action item here. It sounds like a status update, but it's more about, we forgot to write them down. So I just want to make sure that we keep track of what we decide to do, because I'm quite sure we decided to do also other things, but I don't remember what.
We put a couple of extra things on the board, and that they were the main things we decided last week. So that's still true. I think we had a lot of release fun last week instead. So, what I kind of related to those issues, the deadline, their actions. Sorry, I've lost English, which is a bad situation. So on the main, let me actually see if I can share this. So within our Epic, we have this, we're doing the pipeline for code rollback piece. What I did last week as part of other Epic updates was to set a due date of March the 5th, which is next Friday. Next Friday. Does that feel like it's a vaguely reasonable time? We're pretty close. So we've got rollback documentation improvements is basically just the things we decide here. We've got two big pieces, right? One is adjusting the pipeline for GitLab and Prefect, and standardizing process and investigating the diff between the auto deploy packages. And then we've got, I think, Alessio, you maybe have already done investigating the rollback feature. We just need to write some notes there. So does that March 5th sound like a reasonable date to aim for? And if so, do we need to take some actions to actually get these items complete?
So I was quickly going through them before. So I'm not sure about the standardized process of investigating diffs, because in my view, in the context of what we are discussing now, so having a pipeline that can do this and a manual procedure, I think that we are done here, because with the chatops command is providing us the information. So maybe we can sneak in the finding the package thing. So what Robert suggested, but then I think this is enough, because then we discussed the thing that on a real pipeline, once we want to automate this, we want to double check the status on the database, but I will not count this as part of this epic, because it's another topic.
That makes sense.
So I don't know if others are aware of something that we are actually missing here, because otherwise I think this is done.
One piece I wasn't sure on, it doesn't have to be part of this, but I know we touched on it a little bit at times, but I don't know maybe whether we've actually made a decision is, what do we do with in progress deployments?
That's a good question. So I don't believe we have enough automation and data points right now to figure this out, because it really depends on where it broke and why.
Yeah. Should we tackle
so
that
I will
somewhere
consider
separately
a documentation. Yeah, I will consider this as a kind of a documentation thing to put in the run book and with some ideas. But I mean, it's more about if it broke in the middle, think very carefully about what you're doing. And then we can provide some data points like before post-deployment migrations, this, or it really depends on what broke.
Yeah, that makes sense. So maybe there's almost like an additional, like it's probably just a run book or something, right? There's an additional piece at this assisted rollback.
Yeah, because the point is that we are checking for post-deployment migration, but as long as it broke before running post-deployment migration, we are sure that there are no post-deployment migrations.
Yes. Isn't there an extra, there's a little bit of extra knowledge, isn't there, around stopping, like halting deployments? And I mean, I certainly don't think I necessarily, well, my assumption is there are better places to do that, and I don't know what they are.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a tribal knowledge around this, and probably Scarbeck and Henry are the best one to try to figure out this, because so I'm just trying to remember a discussion that I had with Jarv. So there is one point about load balancer. So the thing is that at the beginning of each batch of deployment, we remove machines from the load balancer. So depending on how they broke, it may require some manual action before we can actually even roll back. Because when it will deploy again, the old version on that part of the fleet, the machines may be in the wrong state. So the pre-check may not allow us to deploy. So I think that we should defer this to our SREs so that they better knows what's happening there.
Yeah, so as Alessio noted, we remove a node from a load balancer. Well, so let me back up. We check for the status of all our nodes before pipeline begins. If they're in a maintenance mode, things are fine. What we'll do is we'll leave the node as is, deploy to it, and we won't put the node back into the load balancer on purpose. It's common for us to usually drain a set of nodes and then put in maintenance, but I think that process may have changed since the last time I've seen it done. But if a node was deployed to and then gets into a failed state, Ansible will stop at that moment in time because the health checks are failing. It's expecting the node to be up inside a load balancer, but it's not. So Ansible will fail at some point in time. If it's the first node, we know that something is probably very bad with the package we just installed. If it happened in the middle, which has occurred sometime in the last few weeks because of a bug in the Ruby garbage compaction process when we upgraded Rails, that was a sporadic situation. In that particular case, we had to go manually remediate that node. I think in those types of situations, it's better for us to figure out what the failure scenario is and determine if a rollback is legitimately worth pursuing. Because if it's like a Ruby compaction problem, you're probably going to want to roll back. We did not do that in the last previous cases, but it may have been the wise solution in that case. But we would need to get the node back online. Otherwise, the deployer is not going to be happy. Obviously, there's a flag you could set that ignores that, but I forget the name of the flag. Something with the word HA proxy in it. But like it's very dependent on the failure, what's involved in that failure, and where we are in the deployment process. I don't know how we can make a run book that if this situation occurs, do this, because it might be different. So we'd have another if clause, and that may be different. We'd have another if clause. I don't know how we could make that a run book.
Let's start by just documenting the gating conditions. So at the beginning of the deployment, we expect this, we do this, and at the end, we do that. If something happens in between, then we are in a mixed state. And later on, we will figure out what to do. And I was also thinking about another flag, because you mentioned flag. There is also the omnibus skip chat rule or some variation of these terms. So what I'm thinking is, so if something bad happens during a deployment, the rollback will fail because because it's the same thing that happened when staging deployment failed, then the new package is ready and the staging deployment starts and the pre-check fails because there's a mismatch in I don't know, you know better than me, but basically.
Yeah, so if a deploy to staging it gets all the way through, but like say QA fails, for example, we miss the need to swap a flag in Omnibus. So the next time the deployer comes around, what it wants to do is to validate that it's not stepping on top of an existing deploy. We use a chef role to set a flag to prevent, as a lock mechanism, prevent two deploys from going at the same time. When a deploy completes, we reset that flag to unblock future deploys. If QA, for example, fails, that flag does not get reset. So there's two ways to go around that. One is to manually modify the flag, which is what I've been accidentally doing, which is not the correct way. But there's another flag that we could set during a deploy to ignore that check.
So this means that,
Which I believe we've
so
got
we
the
have the
flag
same thing.
documented. We may not have it documented in a runbook style, so you know what to do when you approach this failure. But I think
because the
when
failure is
job fails,
self-documented.
yeah, when the
It
job
tells
fails,
you-
it tells you set this flag if you want.
Yeah, but I mean, I suppose that in a rollback situation where we know that this may happen and we are really in control of what is happening, probably we want to have all the information up front, so that you say I say rollback, so rollback. And the other thing is that this is a question, and is I'm aware that these things happen in cannery and staging, but do we have the same thing for production? Because we don't run QA at the end. So maybe we just set the flag back to the original state after
We
post-deployment
still
migration.
set the flag. Let's see. I forget precisely which job does it off the top of my head. Let me pull up the pipeline real quick. I just forget the name of the job is all.
Yeah, they're like covered in every few sections. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Which job does it?
People see the price and get turned away, but they don't realize
QA.
the
Oh,
deployers are more expensive
clean cache, finish success.
system.
So must be environment-version must be the one that does it. Yes. So there's a job in the finishing stage called environment-version, and at the tail end of it, you'll see that it does a set omnibus item. I guess I could share my screen just so you guys see what I'm talking about. Share. So this is just looking at the latest staging deployment. So in this case, GSTG version is the name of the job that runs. And we do a set version, and we set it to the name of that item. And then we do a set omnibus updates, which sets a very simple flag to true. And that's just modifying our GSTG omnibus version role that sets a flag to enable. That thereby removes the lock that this pipeline had. That way future pipelines are able to continue to run. So if we don't make it to this job for whatever reason, that should be investigating it along itself. That might be a QA failure or maybe a deployment failure. But if this doesn't run, this will prevent future deploys from working. And the job that does that check will obviously tell you what to change if you need it, if you need to make a change in order to force the deploy to go out.
So I think that in terms of understanding what we need to do, so if even just starting with something simple, so if something broke during a deployment and was deemed that a rollback is a good option, that's something that we want to do, because otherwise we're just wasting extra time, because the check will start and will fail, and it takes a lot of time to fail, because unless you're checking it and see the failures coming, it just retry for a very long time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. Nice. So that's the kind of the things we started. So the standardized process of investigating diff between auto deploy packages. Sounds like, yeah, we're good on that, right? Like, nice.
I think our last demo highlighted the improvements we made. So I think we're good on that front.
Yeah, quite a substantial change. Nice.
I think at this point it's just documenting some of the minor outlier cases that we hit so rare that would be good for, say, onboarding Henry, such that he knows, that we've documented stuff like this. But
I mean, it's good for all the team, also for the rest of the team, because I don't believe we should keep this kind of knowledge separated between SREs and other backend engineers. So I'm all for surfacing this type of information because it's very important.
Agree. Nice. So then the other piece we have is a just pipeline for Gitly and Prefect.
Well, that one is simple. I can pick that one. Nice. so that we complete this part by the
awesome. I think we talked last week about just saying like, yes, it should be manual, right? And I don't think we had any objections to that. So nice. One of the things, if we do make it manual, will that mean the QA tests run after the Gitly piece? So will it roll back the fleet and then we'd have a manual step to get to Gitly and then we'd kick off the QA tests?
No, we that's the point where we need to rework the pipeline so that there's this needs flag that tells you what you have to wait from previous stage. So you basically you remove the Gitly deployment from what is needed for moving forward.
Cool. Okay. Sounds great. Nice. So that will pretty much give us a rollback pipeline, right? That we're happy with. What does that mean for rollbacks?
We should test a production one.
Yeah. What do we like? Is it worth us? Like, I guess once we've run it on staging, right, and we're happy with it, like maybe it's a case of us then starting to run the check for post-deployment migrations thing when we see incidents, because if we have an incident, we might be able to find an opportunity to do a rollback. Because the good thing about an incident is we're starting from something's broken, which, no. Or I guess we could just roll back something, right? There's no reason why we couldn't.
We're going to have a fake, I mean, we can schedule something so that we do this in a safe environment, right? So yeah. we coordinate with development, we do change, which is, I don't know, something in the help page, something really trivial, but that you can visually see. We deploy that and we roll back that.
Yeah.
It takes hours. We know it takes hours to run this type of thing, but I mean, I don't want to test this for the first time during an incident.
Okay, yeah, you're right. You're totally right. Yeah, we can schedule a time, right?
I agree that we don't want to schedule this during an incident, but you're concentrating your efforts on a relatively small change, but that's not realistic. I'd rather us focus our efforts on whatever is available to us at the time in which we're able to test. If we can't test it because there's a post-deploy migration, fine, so be it. But if we can test it and there's not a post-deploy migration and there's still 3,000 change files and 1 million deletions and 2 million additions, test it anyways. It's considered safe according to our documentation, so theoretically we should be okay to go. What I don't want to do is interfere with any potential upcoming releases, the security release, and that kind of thing if we could avoid it. I think it'll be easier to schedule in that particular case.
So what about we do this, but we ask release manager to, I mean, we can do it also as a team. It's not that doesn't matter. But that we roll forward again right after, because as long as we play on staging, who cares? But productions, maybe customers see something, get new features, whatever, and then it disappears. Maybe there's some engineer that is testing something and say, yeah, finally landed in production, but it is no longer there. So
maybe
as long as we communicate up front,
we advertise externally as well. So maybe we should get the CMOC involved for part of this exercise. Because that would be kind of disruptive for some people, depending on the change. But since we can't accurately predict what that change and what that rollback is going to introduce, it might be worth just saying, hey, we found a problem or we're testing something, so we're rolling back. We don't expect outages, but I think it would be good to advertise that.
Yeah. So my
Advertise.
calendar froze.
Notify.
So what about if we tentatively try to run this after the security release? So would be, if a calendar helps me now.
Maybe the second week of
After March 4th.
Second week of March.
Yeah, exactly. So March 4th means March 9, could it be? No, yeah, 9. Does it make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
again, we check the status of everything when we start. Maybe we can't do it. Maybe there's an incident, whatever, right? But maybe we can say that starting from March 9 up, or maybe, 9 or 16, because then there's release day, there's release another time. So the first occasion we can run it, we run it.
Sounds great. So yeah, let's aim for the week of, like, yeah, you're right, like that week at some point we can do it. And awesome, that's gonna be fun. I'll begin sharing comms on that around infrastructure, so that if anyone's got any concerns on that, we can start addressing them. But I think from what we've seen in staging, it looks pretty like it either doesn't work or it's a pipeline and it rolls through. So nice.
We should add that event to just this one event to maybe the share counter. That way, if any other teams are curious about this, they could join in and watch us hopefully be successful.
That's a great idea. Yeah. So should we find, like, this is going to be like 2 hours, right? Rollback prod. Is that right? I'm assuming it's roughly the same as a deployment, like a little shorter, but not a huge amount, right? Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we should also make a note on the production calendar, because, I mean, we do something in production, right? And I'm sure the SRE teams and Brent would like to have some notification forefront and, be in the picture. I'm not sure about what announcements we should do, but I mean, we constantly deploy something without announcements, so I guess it's fine. But at least in the production calendar, maybe it's a good thing to have.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Let me put an issue together, because I think it would be good for us to have a bit of a checklist of all the pieces that we want to make sure we do before that. And then, like, I doubt this will be the last time we do a test like this, so we can copy it later if needed. Fantastic.
Okay, I have another meeting. I realized only now, so I would drop off and reschedule this completely meeting for the next time. So yeah, thank you all of you, and I would catch up on the agenda later.
Speak soon. Cool. So was there anything else people wanted to cover today? Were there any other, I suppose, requests from your side, Robert, on, as the person going through this stuff, like if this was in a stressful incident, was there anything else you'd have liked to have had?
No, I think, yeah, just automatically showing which package to roll back to. And yeah, it would have been nice if we could somehow have like Slack interactivity where it's just like you click a button and it creates the pipeline, but can't do that yet.
Yeah. Is that something, like, what will we need to be able to have that?
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking about that in the background during this meeting. We would need to basically stand up a permanent web server that can receive an endpoint from the Slack button that would trigger something in release tools. So long term, probably.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay.
It might be worth it though, because at this point we're running so many release tools pipelines. It might just be worth it just to have like a permanently running release tools instance. That would also include a web server. But this is, well, a different discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be worth thinking through though.
GitLab doesn't have a feature to accept webhooks from someplace.
Incoming webhooks, that's a good question. I guess triggers would be an
Chatbot kind of does that, right?
Yeah, I'll have to think about it some more.
But I guess he's kind of limited in what he's allowed to accomplish with receiving information.
I think also Slack interactivity requires specific responses, which we might not be able to do from whatever GitLab opens, if anything.
We had this issue today that a token was removed, right? Or even a Slack application which broke the SRE on call and the release manager notifications. I mean, there's the place where we have those kind of web services hooked up, I think, as serverless functions in Node.js or something. And if we could replace it with something which is easier to understand, that would be already an improvement. And I know that Craig Furman is working for the incident management things on Woodhouse, which is written in Go, to include a lot of functionality and integration with Slack. Maybe we could hook up in there somewhere, or maybe create our own. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it'd be good to avoid duplicating that work.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Nice. Okay. Well, let's keep that in mind. Like if someone wants to like think through that, then go for it, or say we can keep it in mind for a future iteration. Awesome. Is there anything else that anyone would like to cover for rollbacks? No? Okay, awesome. Like, I love the fact that this has become like quite routine, quite rapid, like in just a few short weeks. So that's pretty exciting. So yeah, onwards towards production. Cool. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Speak to you all soon.